So it's still summer for a lot of people, and if you're anything like me, you're probably looking for ways to optimize your time as best as you can to get the most stuff done. And because there are probably a lot of people like that, I've seen a bunch of these summer archetype videos popping up, and I've noticed a pretty common theme among all of them. If you've noticed, most of them are basically concerned about one thing: your looks. Summer glow up, looks maxing, how to get a shredded six pack, all of that type of stuff. They've convinced you that there's this magical summer glow up that can happen and that you really need it. And even if you do need it, I think it's the wrong thing to pursue. So let me explain real quick. When you have a lot of free time, ideally you should do things that are really difficult to do, that require a lot of time, but that also give you the highest ROI, return on investment, that give you the most results. And that logically makes sense. So, looks maxing, I'll just go to the gym like 50 times a week, But let's hold on a little bit. Let me give you a trade offer. This summer, instead of focusing on looks maxing, I propose that you focus on building your character. Thanks, that's very helpful and not vague at all. What I say will sound cringe, but building your character basically equates to fulfilling your potential, finding out what you're actually capable of. And those things sound cringe because they're overused, everyone talks about them. But the reason they're talked about so much is because they work. Usually the fundamentals are the things that work. The master does the fundamentals more than the beginner. Okay, so why would you even want to build your character instead of bettering your looks? Well, for one thing, building your character, as far as I know, carries over to basically every aspect of your life. Whether it's in like work, social interactions, doing hard stuff, going to the gym, all of that just comes down to you and what you're capable of. Because the difference between someone that can make $1 million and someone that can stay broke is just themselves. If the millionaire loses all of his money and he's placed in the same exact situation as the broke guy, you know for a fact that he's gonna succeed sometime in the future while the broke guy will just stay broke. Another reason I suggest doing this right now, not waiting for like 10 years down the line, is because the older you get, the harder it is to do this. Building character is basically, step one is to do really difficult stuff that you don't want to do. And step two is to do really difficult stuff that you don't want to do. And the older you get, the more responsibilities you have and the more excuses you're gonna get to not do this stuff. Because this is probably the most difficult thing you'll ever do. You have to break down your old self and build yourself up again. And the reason you should do it this summer is obviously because when school starts or work starts, it's the same thing. More responsibility, more excuses. So the problem with looks maxing as I see it right now is that you can honestly just do it later in life. Like if you're a teenager right now, like going to the gym, like doing your hair every morning, that's like gonna give you like 10% of the benefit it could possibly give you when you're like 20, when your testosterone or like whatever is at its all-time high. And I'm not telling you that looks aren't important, because they are. What I'm telling you is that right now, the most important thing you can probably do is build your character. Because you can looks max right now or you can looks max 10 years in the future, it really won't matter. But building your character, that's something that if you do right now will decide the course of your whole life. But in my opinion, the best thing about building your character like this is at the same time you can do the looks maxing stuff too. So I said that building character basically equates to doing really hard shit, right? So let's say if you're kind of fat or chubby right now and you wanted to looks max this summer by, I don't know, going to the gym. Well, the thing is, if you build your character, do really hard stuff, well, really hard stuff is probably going to the gym for you, right? Because maybe you've never done it before. So if you do this really hard thing to build your character, you're kind of going to looks max at the same time, even though that's not your focus. If you go do hard stuff with the motivation to just make yourself look better, you're going to have less motivation than if you did the same hard stuff, but for the purpose of just doing the hard stuff. If you do hard stuff for the sake of doing hard stuff, that hard stuff won't be as hard. Yeah, I don't even know if that's true. It just sounded cool to say. So I'm sorry that you didn't find any quick tips in this video. I didn't tell you really what you wanted to hear, because building your character is insanely difficult. Bro, ask David Goggins. You think it was easy for him? And speaking of David Goggins, I mean, he gives a decent amount of practical advice, but most of his content is really just motivation. And the practical advice he does give is kind of pretty vague and difficult to implement. And I'm by no means David Goggins, but I think that I could help you do this thing of building your character, because from now on I'll just be making every video about that, about how to actually become David Goggins. But it's like a lot more accessible to like students, teenagers, just people in general, because I'm not just gonna tell you to wake up one day and run an ultra marathon. And if I do tell you to do that, then I'll actually explain how you can do that. So yeah, bro, subscribe if this video helped you. Looks are important, but you're more important. So I don't know what I just said. Go do some push-ups.